we certainly appreciate it. I'd entertain questions or comments from board members first, and then I'll go to the audience and say, I do the same thing.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure working.
Anybody in the audience have, Supervisor All, were you ready?
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you, Bob. I mean, you guys, your organization, have done a good work. You've been easy to work with and pleasure to work with on many different projects within the county and my area up there. And it's just, it's been good for the environment. It's been good for the people. It's been good for everything. And just thank you guys for hard work and dedication.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Anybody else in the audience have any questions of Mr. Kingman? You bet. Delight Caligari, please.
Yes, I've been kind of studying stuff up in Wairika and Oregon and all that, where they're shutting out the watersheds for the farmers and the agricultural and stuff like this. I don't know much about your organization, whatever, but it worries me when the government gets too involved in the different counties and cities, so we can have our own industry running and get our counties and cities running up, and not have you guys have your fingers in it to stop us from doing good that we need to do for this Lassen County and all of Northern California and lower part of Oregon. So I don't know if you're involved in that. I'll have to go home and get all my documents I've printed out and read again.
We're not involved in that region at all. Our jurisdiction does not include any portion of the areas that you talked about. And we really work on mostly an invitation type basis. So where a county has expressed an interest, or a local organization has expressed an interest in working with us, we work with them. If that interest isn't there, then there are lots of
How
others
involved
that
are you in Plumas County? Because they're about dying on the vine, and all the ranchers and everything, and the cattle.
We're actively working in Plumas County to try and help them retain their working landscapes, and particularly their the Loyalton biomass plant and the mills and all the work, all those infrastructures that have gone away. We're really working to try and save those.
So you weren't there before they went away?
No, we've only been in...
That Sierra Club is over there, and that scares me. I don't know how involved you are, or the Sierra Conservancy, I think is what you are. I read about that too, and I wasn't very happy with different documents and stuff that I've read and things that you've caused problems with different counties, especially over in Plumas.
I'd be happy to talk with you more if you have some specifics about that, but I'm not familiar with those conflicts because I haven't been involved in it.
I don't know, maybe you're a different organization than what the ones I've been reading about over there.
We like to be, and we really work hard with communities to listen across the board.
Well, one of the Conservancy people that was over there, the young man who was head of the worked for President Clinton, so I don't know where he came from Washington, D.C. to find out little Plumas.
Not sure who it is, but it's not our organization.
And that's what scared me.
It's not their director, I can assure you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not.
Thank you, Delight. Is there anybody else in the audience that has any questions or comments? I don't know, Kane, you stood up. Would you
Yes,
like to
please.
speak?
Mr. Kingman?
Yes.
I would like to know, you talk about the forest fires. What percent or the forest fires is caused naturally, like electrical storms, like we're experiencing? What percent is really man-made?
Boy, great question. I have no idea.
Okay. I don't either.
I mean, I'm sure you could probably Google it. I don't know what percentages are around man-made versus naturally occurring forest fire sites.
Okay, all right.
I think it's important to note that regardless of how they start, once they're started, they can be really damaging and affect a lot of people, affect our water, the ability, now we're seeing these huge landslides in Colorado following on the fires that they experienced last year, and working to keep our forests in a condition where they can survive those types of forest fires so that the soil stays in place is really important.
Also about, you allow the chipping trucks to go into the forest and clean it up for the hydroelectric plants. That's good, I think. It cleans up the forest, and if you leave I'm wondering if you agree with that or not.
We funded some of that. We funded a number of chipping programs to try and deal proactively with the biomass that comes off of the forests. And working.
You do deal with it then?
Absolutely. We're not any kind of a regulatory agency, so it's not like we can allow or disallow any of that. That really lies with the landowners. but we support that type of work. So,
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience wishing? Violet? Yes.
The bonds and the finance all comes out of taxpayers' dollars, don't it?
well, the bonds are voted for by voters, California voters.
Yeah, taxpayers.
Right.
And does the Forest Service and the BLM have anything to do with this? Because they're telling people you can't go anywhere anymore.
They're-
It's their land.
They're federal agencies. We're a state agency, so they're really not connected other than you communicate, and try and cooperate in the.
I live right by them both, and I have a fight with them about every day or two.
Well, I know you're in good company.
Anybody else in the audience? I know that Mr. Kingman, I don't know if anybody wants to talk to him specifically. I don't want to offer it up, Bob, but I know
I'm happy to talk to you.
out in the foyer here for a little while. So, but thank you again for taking the time to come up, and best of the rest of your staff. Thank you, Linda. Always look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to move on. We're obviously running a little bit behind. I apologize. We're going to move on and take these in order. However, we're going to move on to D5, which is Banner Lassen Medical Center, and Mr. Bob Edwards can kind of brief us on what's going on up at the medical center and bring us up to date, maybe on the Affordable Care Act and everything else that the community may be facing as far as health care goes. Bob, thank you very much for taking time to come to us today, and I look forward to your presentation.
You're very welcome, and I apologize about bringing in PowerPoint, and I got to apologize. I'm surprised. I'm on the agenda, but I'm always glad to talk about it.
Well, you're happy. You'd be invited back if you want to bring a PowerPoint.
Let me just give a couple of things. It's really nice that we're an award-winning medical facility. This last year, we were named the top 100 critical access hospital in the country. There's 1,360 of those across the country, so to be named in that level for our quality and efficiencies is a wonderful award. To top that off, we were named as a top 20 critical access hospital for our financial effectiveness. The Joint Commission, which surveys as an accrediting body, the hospitals across the country, named us as a top performing hospital. Only 16% of the hospitals in the country that are accredited by the Joint Commission received that sort of nomination, so that's a really good thing. We do, by the way, have made some improvements. When I came here, I heard a lot about two things. Number one was about the emergency room. This last 2 months, we've had 76% of our patients rate us a 9 or 10 on their care there. I think one of the reasons of that is during our busy times, at 8 hours of the day, we have a physician assistant come in to help us move forward. The next is on billing, and so that continues to be a problem. I'd encourage anyone in the audience or any of you, if you have trouble with billing, please let us know so we can handle those directly. Billing, like other things, is done central to Banner Health. Banner Health has its big hospitals in Phoenix, so some of those services are done there. We have a local approach, so please include us on that level. It's been a good year for us. We continue to look at growing. We're looking at a 10-year master campus plan. We think the first 4 phases of that, which should occur in the next 4 to 5 years, is that we need to add to our central plant because it won't support an expansion. That's about $4 million. We want to grow our emergency department space. We have 9 rooms. We'd like to go to 18. That's about another $11 million. Then we'd like to, after that, add a medical office building because right now the average age of physicians in our community is 60. We'd like to help in recruitment of physicians to this area. The last on our list there is to grow our OB department. We deliver about 300 babies a year, and we think it's going to continue to be a resource for us. As we talk about some challenges ahead of us, and I'll make this really brief after this too, is that we do not receive any county or state funds to help us really take care of our indigent care. As a critical access hospital, we get 101% of what the Medicare considers reasonable cost. And by the way, housekeeping is not a reasonable cost. So just to give you an idea about some challenges we have, but every single day we write off about $6,500 for people coming there to get care in our facility that don't have the means for that. So that's a tremendous burden on our facility. We'll continue to work hard at being the best we can. So, Mr. Hanson, I hope that off the cuff, I hope that helps answer some things. I'm willing to answer any questions.
Well, and I think just the opportunity to introduce yourself to the other board members and folks in the audience. I know you've been here for a while now, and I want to thank you very much for the leadership that you've provided to the hospital up there. And just from my own standpoint, a community of our size, inside the state of California, because it's a real challenge to be blessed with a facility as new as this one. And I know that there are some issues that some folks may have with Big Banner and so on, but without Banner, we wouldn't have the new hospital. So we're in debt to you for that. Yeah. Board members have any questions or comments? You bet, Aaron.
Yes.
Please.
No, you guys don't have your own ambulance.
We do not.
I don't think so. How's your working relationship with them?
I think he's doing really good with him, so we're not going to have any issues with him. So. Okay. So,
Anybody else have any comments?
Have a question?
Board level?
okay.
Anybody in the audience have any questions for Mr. Edwards at this time? Thank you very much again, Bob, for coming, and
On a
you're welcome
personal-
here anytime.
And on a personal note, we love Lassen County. We had, when we came here, it was a little bit of a surprise that we got to move this direction. We have an 8,000 square foot house and 480 acres back in Nebraska, which we're selling, so that we can move our cattle operation here and call this our home. So it's a great place. You guys need to be proud of Lassen County.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move right into our 1045 item, or 1045 time certain, which is D6. And that's a discussion of the budget. And in the interest of time, I know a lot of folks there are kind of two subjects here that are tied together, D5 and D6. And, pardon me, D6 and D7. And that's the budget and the swimming pool, obviously. I'll take a stab at the budget and certainly welcome Supervisor Pyle as well to chime in, if you will, as we go through the discussion. We've been meeting since May 9th, I believe, was the first meeting of the Budget Committee. There are two supervisors that sit on the Budget Committee to kind of do the preliminary work with the county budget, if you will. They're the chairman and the vice chairman, and so consequently Supervisor Pyle and myself, along with staff members, Julie Morgan, who's sitting over on our right, and Mr. Nichols, obviously, are an integral part of it, as is Regina Schapp and others. And this year has been especially challenging on the budget, not necessarily just from a financial standpoint. We've had the last 4 or 5 years, quite frankly, the county has been, as some may term it, deficit financing. Our revenues haven't exactly equaled our expenditures. Obviously, we have beginning balances, or where we start the year, and we can nibble away at those. We have some one-time monies that are set aside and reserved for one reason or another. You can consider those reserves if you care to, and obviously most entities, whether you're a business or a government entity, you kind of put those reserves aside for two reasons. One is to take care of emergencies, unforeseen emergencies that may come up, and then secondly, obviously, to smooth over those rough times, because we all experience them, and I don't have to tell everybody about the economy we've experienced in California over the last couple of years. It probably sounds like I'm sitting up here making a bunch of excuses, but this is just more or less the background as we go into this year's budget process. I think we have two issues that we have to tackle this year, and it's the same every year, but it's probably a little more pronounced this year. One is the fiscal 13-14 budget. That's the one that's on our plate right now. But I think after we are done grinding away at the 13-14 budget, the county family and the citizens of the community are going to have to take a look at maybe a different way of budgeting in general and providing those services that are necessary to the community. Our biggest issue is trying to see some increases in revenues. Quite frankly, there's been recovery. It's well publicized in the Bay Area and in Sacramento, maybe to a lesser extent in Redding and Fresno and other cities down around the state. But quite frankly, both in the state of California and around the nation, rural America has continued to, I think, and at least this is my own personal opinion, has continued to be challenged to recover financially. The agricultural community in Nebraska and Kansas and other areas doing pretty well with corn prices and so on and so forth. But all in all, I think rural America is still challenged, and we're facing those challenges here. In the staff report that's been prepared and it's out there publicly, we've noticed probably a $3 million deficit budgeting, plus or minus a couple of $100,000 here or there. It deserves refinement. Some may say that it's that and getting worse. I, on the other hand, feel that it's probably that, but I think we're going to be able to do a good job internally ratchet that down. We continue to have one-time monies and reserves that we can draw on as needed, but we're gonna have to try and close that gap. I think in the future, and this is just a warning to the community, and all these are pretty much my personal opinions, and I'll let Bob speak for himself, and then eventually the board will speak when we deliberate the budget itself and we approve the budget. If we cannot, in some fashion, ratchet a balanced budget where revenues more closely equal our expenditures, we may have to look at those services that are provided to the community that are not mandated. And if I put out a list, I'm sure it's going to come out that we're saying we're going to cut this, or we're going to cut that, or we're going to cut this, or cut that. That's not necessarily the case, but there are a lot of services provided by the county that are not necessarily mandated. So I think that these are things that the community is going to have to debate, those values of those services and how they want to pay for them. Things like the fair, we backfill the fair. Things like the animal shelter, not necessarily mandated. And I know these are near and dear to people's hearts, and I am not even suggesting that I'm interested in discontinuing the services, but we've got to come to grips with our budget issue. And probably, in a final note, and I do not ever want this to sound as though I'm pointing fingers, and I think those who are involved in the city budget process could probably echo this statement. I know other counties can as well. We have a great public safety team, public safety, the DA, probation, juvenile hall, let alone the sheriff's department, obviously. But all communities, all local communities are having to spend a great deal of resources to provide that, to provide public safety to their community. So what drives the budget, or what has driven the budget in the past, we've got to take that public safety issue. That issue is probably the most important issue to 90%, 95%, 85, 99% of the constituents is public safety. They want to know that when they dial 911, you can get an ambulance, you can get a fireman, or you can get a sheriff's deputy or a police officer. And they don't care which pot the money's coming out of or anything else. That's what they want. And if anybody disagrees with me, you're welcome to disagree. They also want to be able to have their road taken care of. If there's a little snow on it, you want it cleaned off. If the potholes start to develop, you want them filled. That makes little difference to many constituents, whether that comes out of gas tax or general fund or anything else. That's what they want. And so we continue to focus on those services. But at the same time, there are a number of other things that are very important to this community. We want to try and include them. I don't know, Bob, if you want to.
No, I think Jack did a really thorough job, and I'm not.
It's just a general background where we are.
Due to lack of time, I'm sure you're not going to repeat any of it. I just want to make it, you people need to understand, we need to cut $3 million out of our budget to make it down. Will we do that? Yes, we will. It's our responsibility. We have to understand, looking forward to coming fiscal year, retirement costs will increase as PERS implements its long-range financing plan. PERS costs that this county has to pay is going to continue to increase. We got budget items that we have no control over, like Jim Holly said earlier. SB 109, you're shoving it down our throat. That's going to cost probably a lot of money. It'll continue to cost money. We have no control over this. There's significant capital needs that need to be done. I mean, go to the courthouse. Look at the brick wall around the sidewalk around the lawn around the courthouse. It's just falling apart. I mean, not including, public works, road graders, snow plows, the sheriff's cars, all this. These things are not being kept up. They are falling backwards. These employees aren't overpaid. They need higher salaries. We've done all we can do to help them get through the time with no salary increases, maybe some benefit increases. But, I mean, all these are huge, huge costs we got coming ahead and we got to look ahead. So we don't only have $3 million this year to cut out before we even get to a balanced budget. We got to look at what we can't keep kicking the can down the road, and we have been doing that. We have had the means, the money in one-time budget categories. You keep all the savings account with your own personal home budget finance. We have had the money to balance the budget and keep going, and hopefully, times will get better, the revenue will increase. They haven't done that. So I have to sit here and be responsible. I mean, I have a lot of things I want to buy for my wife and my kids and my business. I don't have it. Because I can't afford it. I have to look at my budget and say, this is what I got. And you people at home got the same thing. Maybe you want a new house, a new car, or a new bedroom on it, or whatever it be. You want them and you need them, but you have to put them on because you don't have the money. The county does not have the money. I mean, on a swimming pool, do I support it? I support it 100%. I would love to say the city, the county, and the high school, and the college, and all of us get together in Banner, Lassen, put the money in and build a $10 million aquatic center. I would love to be ahead of that, but you know what? Fantasy is fantasy, and reality is reality. And right now, the reality is in numbers. And so we have to look at getting $3 million out, and we can do it. And there's a lot of items in there that might be over budgeted. You know, I don't know, it might have not to 600,000, 700,000, 800,000, but that still leaves a lot to do. I mean, right here is the budget summary. Public safety, $2 million short. Just to continue what we have today, we have to come up with $2 million. So, I mean, with all this, keep it in mind. You know, I am going to do the responsible thing to the board of the Lassen County, the taxpayer of Lassen County. That's where I am on it. And the budget hearings next September 3rd through the 6th, I mean, we're going to sort all this out.
That's our action.
And so, anyhow, this is the budget committee report. We meet as a committee, you know, how many times do we meet?
5 or 6.
5 times, 6 times, I don't remember. It started May 9th, but it's a means for the department heads and the public to come to a committee of all these people that sit on it and give their feelings, you know, so we know exactly where we're going to submit the departmental budget. So we can come up with a summary, you know, to bring to the Board of Supervisors and say, this is where we are. And that's what it is, and anyhow, any questions would be for that.
First, we'll go to board members, then we'll go to the audience, and then we'll move on to our next item, obviously, which is part of this, actually part of the deliberation. Any questions? Larry, you bet. Supervisor Wasik?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm also, I'm looking forward to the week-long budget, and you know, there is a lot of work to do, like Supervisor Kyle said, but I'm confident, you know, that we'll figure out a plan that works for the community. But I'm also looking forward to having on our list of items to deliberate all of the items that you know the community is asking for. Not only you know each department's budget and so on, but other things, and including the swimming pool. It's been said that it is the number one, you know, unmet need of the community. The timing isn't, you know, quite ideal, but with that said, it still is the number one unmet need of the community. So
Number one, on recreation.
Yeah. But with that said, it deserves its rightful place for consideration, and I look forward to going over everything, you know, swimming pool included, but everything. It's been said before, it's our most important duty as board members, and I look forward to the challenge. I think it's going to be, you know, if we had a big surplus and if things were rosy, they probably wouldn't be quite as exciting and challenging, but we got a challenge, and personally, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm eagerly awaiting September 3rd for some strange reason.
Jim, Aaron, you got anything to say at this time? Or I know we'll have plenty of opportunity. Aaron?
I got one question. You kind of touched on it briefly here. You talked about mandated funds, and then you have funds that you can have some wiggle room with. What percentage, or what's, first off, I guess the first question is how big is our county budget?
Depends on whether you take the whole thing as a lump sum. We can funnel through about $100 million plus or minus $10 million. I mean, over the years, but Then you come down to general fund, which might be between 15 and 20, but maybe closer to 17 this year. But of that 17, it's not all discretionary. We're probably just like the state government and even the federal government. When it comes down to those funds that are truly discretionary, they would depend on definition, obviously. But the general fund is really where we have the most control. And it's
Probably 10 million of the general fund is discretionary.
So still got to keep the doors open.
So about 85% of the budget is mandated.
It's passed through and earmarked.
90% is mandated.
It is not, of the 16 to 17 million general fund money, that is not all money.
Right, it's not all money over which we have the direct discretion. So
It's about 10,
Okay, thank you.
which has been spent many times over.
okay, any other board member? I want to open it up to the yes, Jim. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Supervisor
I
Chapman.
was just waiting for everybody to have their say, because generally when I start first, nobody else has anything they like to say. So because of that, I kind of held back. And I think this is an issue, and I appreciate the fact that we have people in the audience. And unlike the budget committee meetings, even though they're open to the public, and I'm sure the doors are being broken down for people to attend those meetings, generally it's an opportunity for the board committee, and I appreciate and respect the hours and the time put in by the committee to try to hone in on the issues that we're going to be grappling with. The decisions aren't going to be made at the budget committee level. They're going to be made in this room. They're going to be made by this board with the public participating. And I think that's the process that has endured for 150 years, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Staff, I commend them. They're hardworking. Fiscal staff in particular, trying to put this together. And in conversation with Mr. Nichols and even with Ms. Morgan here this past week, we're still searching on numbers. It's a moving target. It will continue to be a moving target until such time as we adopt it. And even then, a budget is not a static document. It basically is a living document that throughout the year will change from week to week, month to month, as circumstances will determine. So I think we have to appreciate it. But it is also the single most of all the votes that the board casts in the course of a year, in the course of a board member's term, the single most important vote that's cast is our vote on the budget, because the budget funds the priorities that we establish based on the representation we have of our various constituency groups. So to minimize, or to try to minimize the board vote on it, I think the fact that we're going to spend the 4 days that are outlined in the memo for the budget hearings in September, is at a minimum what we should be doing. But it's a document that we should work with year-round and become familiar with, because we can sit here 364 days a year and talk about all the wonderful things that we should or should not do, and we can have all the rhetoric that goes on, but none of it means anything unless it's in the budget. And the item that we have on the next agenda that follows this is specifically to that point. In order to have the debate, you really need to be in the budget, and we'll have to sort through it. The numbers are kind of astounding, and I think people are amazed when you have conversations, and I've talked over the last 35, 40 years to a lot of people about budgets, to the point where they see me coming, they kind of cross their fingers and their eyes glaze over, and they hope that I don't get them started. It is the mode. But if you look at the numbers that are currently, and I'm using the numbers that are provided by staff, and these numbers will change before this week's over with. They'll be different by the end of next week as we go into the budget hearings of the following week, and they'll probably be different even then. But to give you an idea of kind of where this thing is moving, the estimated fund balance, this is for 2013-14. This is, I guess, the beginning balance. This is across the board, all the funds, and I'll break it down into the components. And I agree to a degree with Mr. Pyle. He says about 10%. I think the discretionary